Politics is a dog-eat-dog world.
Some fellas are lucky and some ain't.
Our system of electing politicians is said to be one of the fairest in the world, but it's also very complex and brutal.
The single transferable vote is a potentially deadly device which the Irish people like to use.
So how do you go about using this deadly weapon? Let's start with the candidates.
Hear your name. Mr. White, Mr. Blue, Mr. Blonde, Mr. Orange, Mr. Pink.
The names of the candidates are in alphabetical order on the voting paper with the political affiliation, if they have any, indicated on the side. The voter casts the vote by order of choice 1, 2 and 3. This gives the returning officer the authority to transfer the vote when the candidate when the first choice candidate is either elected or eliminated.
The result of the first count for the constituency of
the returning officer is the person who oversees the counting of the votes. His or her first duty is to decide on the quota which each candidate will have to reach before they can be deemed elected. First, they count the total number of votes cast. The counters then remove the number of ballots which have been incorrectly completed, either because the voter made a mistake or deliberately spoiled their ballot paper. Once these spoiled votes have been deducted from the total poll, we have the valid poll. The quota is determined by dividing the valid poll by the number of seats in the constituency plus 1 and then rounding the number upwards. So for a 3-seater you divide by 4 and round up. After a quota is established, the counters work out how many votes have been cast for each candidate. The result is known as the first count.
Did you see what happened to Blue?
If one of the candidates, in this case Mr. Blue, reaches or exceeds the quota, he is deemed to be elected. When he has more votes than the quota, a surplus, then those votes have to be distributed among the other runners.
Okay, let's talk.
Well, if somebody's got a surplus on the first count, then what happens is they go through all of the votes, they work out the various proportions that each of the people who've got second preferences have got, and then they transfer the right number of votes.
When the second count is completed, the returning officer examines if anyone else has more votes than the quota. In this case, it's Mr. Blonde.
Now, could you believe Mr. Blonde?
Mr. Blonde is deemed elected, and the counters distribute his extra votes. However, they do this in a different fashion.
They've got a surplus by having some votes transferred into them, and so it's those votes that were transferred into them that get transferred on to the other candidates.
There is an argument that the same system of distribution should be used all the way along the chain, and not just on the first surplus.
I mean, the theory is, in fact, in Northern Ireland and in Senate elections they do this, but the theory on Dáil elections is that they just transfer the most recent bundle going in because those are the votes that have got you elected. 2
of the 3 seats have now been filled. With 1 to go, the returning officer eliminates the candidate with the least number of votes, Mr. Pink.
Why am I Mr. Pink?
Mr. Pink's votes are then distributed among the rest of the candidates, and the process continues until all of the seats have been filled. Some voters don't use their preferences. They just vote for one party or even one individual candidate and don't bother to vote down the rest of the ballot paper. These ballot papers are called non-transferable, and as far as some experts are concerned, the voters are simply wasting a good opportunity.
But most people forget that they actually hate people as well as like them, and they should really be using their votes to put people that they dislike down low on the ballot, because most people can think of in their constituency the person they would least like to get elected. But what they should do there is put them at the bottom of the list, and they've managed to put the boot in as well as actually help their own candidates.
For the first time, the electorate has been given a clear choice of 2 coalition governments.
I think there's every chance that the Irish voters will misbehave on Friday. I think that the 2 blocs are trying to corral them in behind the leadership of John Bruton and Bertie Ahern. They may not like that, and they may decide to produce a result which poses another big challenge to them.
On Saturday morning, the count for the 28th Dáil gets underway. It can be a great spectator sport for the electorate, but sheer hell for the aspiring politicians.
Death by PR and single transferable vote can be slow and painful. It's unlike in the British system. Candidates can stay in the field for up to 10 and 12 counts and not know their fate until the very end, until the last votes are counted.
Wow. That was really exciting. I bet you're a big Lee Marvin fan, aren't you?